Good morning and welcome, everyone. Thank you for signing up and for showing up. Our aim is to get through this in 25 minutes, so you'll be free to go on to your next commitments. I'll start with a short introduction, and then my partner, Ed Cope, Director of Exploration, will give you some detailed review of the geology and what's prompting our enthusiasm for this area. And then I'll wrap up. As this platform does not allow us to see you and to stay on time, we ask that you hold your questions to the end. And then if you have any, if we haven't answered them all, send us an email and we will circulate the question and the answer to everybody. I'll let you read the forward-looking statement at your leisure. Okay, yes, we've got over 500 million shares outstanding. We started this project back in 2010, 2011, just after the great crash. We signed on. We made a deal with Barrick Gold to earn in, and we immediately ran into the 211 to 217 bear market. And so despite the bear market, we had to make our expenditures, and so we've got a little more shares outstanding than we'd like. However, it's a big project, and we're enthusiastic about its possibilities. And as one of our money managers is wont to say, we're one hole away from $1 billion. I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. However, currently we have $16 million in the bank, so we have more than enough money to expedite this 12-hole program that we have and make our progresses. Along the way, we've attracted some very good shareholders. Oceanic Gold with 9%, Barrick Gold with 5%, and some excellent institutional support. Crescent Capital, most recently, has come along strong and owns up to 7%. Sprott Equity, that used to be Tuco, has participated in most of our financings. And Mackenzie Financial has come along with a strong commitment to 5% of the stock. The public has 57% of our shares, and the insiders and principals have 60 million shares for a total of 10%. We don't spend a lot of money on IR and PR other than these webinars, but we have managed to attract 3 reasonable recommendations, particularly from Canaccord Capital, the up-and-coming young analyst, Tom Gallo. Next slide, please. So, very quickly, some background. Roger Steinecker and I founded the company in 2009, and we acquired these properties in 2010 and started exploring in 2011. Along the way, in 2013, we managed to attract Alex Davidson. Alex Davidson is one of the instrumental people in the building of Barrick, along with Ed and some of the other people we have. He was a dual vice president, which is unusual for a big company. He was vice president of exploration, where he worked with Ed, and he was vice president of corporate development, where he acquired company, in both accounts, significantly expanding Barrick. Alan Hill, as a director of ours, was one of the principals of Barrick, who built 4 of their major mines. So, Ed retired from Barrick in 2017 and joined us, and he attracted Charles Weekly. Charles Weekly is our wizard behind the curtain, who Ed used to go to whenever he had difficulty in determining what was going on in any particular exploration project. Charles call him the wizard behind the curtain. Next slide, please. More history, we'll let you read that at your leisure. Okay, it's all about grade and quality. And in Nevada, particularly in the areas that we're going to be describing, the grades are significantly high. These are some of the largest gold mines in the world. And Nevada is a great place to be operating with a good regulatory system, well-defined, favorable year-round climate, and as they want to say, no malaria or black flies. Next slide, please. This is one of the key slides. Okay, you'll see that there are 2 belts here, trends, Carlin Trend and the Battle Mountain Trend. They are the parallel Carlin-type geology trends. And then you have one sort of diagonal trend, the North Nevada Rift, which is a different geology. And that is part of what the confusion we had to sort out in terms of our property, because it crosses us. Okay, so we have both geochemistries. And it was with the advent of Charles joining us that we were able to start sorting those out. But a little history. Those ellipses, the Carlin Camp, those 4 deposits, and the 3 in the Cortez Camp are amongst 7 of the world's largest gold mines, with reserves of more than 10 million ounces each. And they produce more than 5 million ounces each, which is 10% of the world's gold production. So out of 3,000 gold mines in the world, these 7 produce 10% of the world's gold. The Meikle and Betts Post were foundational to Barrick. The Carlin and Gold Quarry were foundational to Newmont, as Pipeline was to Placer. And Placer was subsequently bought by Barrick, which together with the discovery of the Cortez and Goldrush propelled it into the largest gold mining company in the world. I'm going to leave off here and pass it over to Ed, so you can start with this one here and give you some background of the exciting geology that we're experiencing here.
Thank you, Albert, and good morning, everyone. I'd just like to spend a few more minutes discussing some of the aspects of the slide here. It's important to note that, these giant deposits that occur on the Northern Carlin Trend and down on the Cortez Trend, these deposits are significantly bigger than other deposits elsewhere in Nevada and elsewhere on these 2 trends. So if you were to take, one of these giant deposits, and I'll use Betsy Post for an example, that deposit began life after it was drilled out as about 200 million tons of 6 grams of gold, or roughly 40 million ounces. Now you could add up all the gold outside this ellipse, and it wouldn't amount to the one deposit there at Gold Strike Betsy Post. The same occurs down here on the Cortez Trend. So all these deposits are far superior to the other ones outside this ellipse. And what we've learned from studying the geology at Gold Strike and Meikle, at the Carlin Trend and in the Cortez Trend, is that all the key aspects that form these deposits kind of occur in the best possible scenario, and that results in the formation of these big deposits. So you have a very favorable limestone host unit. You have a strong hydrothermal system introducing gold-bearing fluids into those limestones. And then with the proper structural preparation, these deposits are formed. So all the key ingredients that make these deposits what they are come together in these 2 ellipses. New Legacy is fortunate that the geology and the structure and all those elements that we've discussed are the same at the Red Hill property as they are across the valley at Cortez. So that bodes well for the discovery of another one of these giant deposits. And with that, we'll dive into some more details on the Cortez Trend and the Red Hill property. So this is a zoom in on the Cortez Camp. Off to the northwest, we have the Pipeline deposit. That's a plus 20 million ounce Carlin type deposit. The center of the district is the Cortez Hills deposit. It's 15 plus million ounces and growing. And then we have the newly discovered Goldrush deposit to the south. As you can see, these deposits are all aligned on this northwest-southeast linear feature that we point out here with the line. And you can see that trend extends across the valley and then on to the property that we hold at Red Hill. The work that's been done on our property is highlighted in these red shapes. Those are the what I would call loosely constrained mineral inventories based on the previous drilling. None of those has developed yet into what we would call a resource, and we feel the potential for developing a deposit and a significant resource is off to the west under this large area of cover. So this is a photographic image just showing the relationship between Goldrush to the north and the New Legacy property to the south. The Serena zone, where we've been working mostly in the past, is highlighted here in the foreground. And in the background here is the Rift Anticline target that we're actively drilling at this time. So just a bit of a history of Goldrush, since this is the type and size of deposit that we're looking to discover. Goldrush was discovered pretty quickly after the acquisition of Placer Dome back in 2006. There was a couple of old drill holes that Placer had completed in this northern area that caught our eye, and we pretty quickly followed up with drilling programs to better ascertain what was going on out there. And that pretty quickly led to the development of about 2.2 million, 2.3 million ounces of resource in this northern area. We had a bit of a hiatus in work in 2009 due to a number of reasons. We planned a big program in 2010. And as part of that program, we needed water for the drilling program. We didn't have a good source of water prior to that. So we came down here on private land on this trend that we had identified from the work up to the north, drilled a water well that had a significant intercept. We immediately twinned that water well with a core hole, and this was the result, roughly 24.4 meters of 34 grams. What's really significant is that the intercept and the geology in this drill hole was exactly the same as what we were hitting to the north. So it gave us really, really good confidence that there was continuity in between this water well and the existing resource. So at that point, it was just a matter of infill drilling along this trend to develop what became the Goldrush deposit. And you can see that in the next 5 years, it grew to roughly 20 million ounces as a kind of a global inventory. The decision was made to go underground, and the result of that is roughly 10 million ounces at 10 grams. And that production is expected to start this year at roughly 450,000 ounces a year. So looking at this trend that transects comes across the valley, the evidence that we have suggests that the structures at Goldrush continue under the alluvial cover in the valley and then come under volcanic cover, which sits on top of the limestones in the Rift Anticline position. So this is where we think the best chance of finding another one of these Goldrush type deposits occurs on the Red Hill property. This other trend is what we call the Buckhorn Trend, and Albert alluded to the Northern Nevada Rift as being somewhat different. Well, this is a much younger epithermal style of mineralization and occurs in the basalts, doesn't occur in the limestone beneath, and it comes across the valley, and we see manifestations of that style of mineralization at Red Hill. So we have, in our case, we have a combination of the older Carlin-style mineralization, which is our key target, and younger epithermal-style mineralization. So it's important to be able to unravel the difference and focus on the Carlin-type system. So just looking at the property again, these are the existing kind of mineral inventory areas that we've developed. We've got extensive volcanic cover to the west, so none of the limestones crop out, so we don't have visual indications of alteration or mineralization. So we're using geophysics and other interpretive methods to look through the volcanics and explore. Just for reference, this is the footprint of the Goldrush deposit shown off here to the southwest. You can see that it would fit in this area nicely. So now to focus in on some of the details of the work we've been doing. This is a summary map showing some of the previous geophysical work that we've done, shown with these lines, the pink colored lines. The Rift Anticline target highlighted by this broad dashed line. Cross section that we're going to show here. And what I'd like to point out are 3 significant drill holes that we have on the property that suggest that we still have the opportunity for finding another one of these high-grade giants, even though we've done a lot of this other drilling over here and don't have that yet. So the first hole was drilled back in 2015. It had 11 grams, 12.2 meters. When we looked at the data, we quickly realized that this was Carlin-style mineralization, not the epithermal type mineralization that we were seeing in quite a number of these other holes. So that pointed us to look further west. In later years, we stepped out to the west at Serena, drilled 17 grams over 9 meters, stepped a little further west a year later, and still got 9.6 grams over 5.1 meters. So these holes are really significant. They're high grade, and they mimic the kind of gold mineralization that we see in these other really giant high grade Carlin deposits elsewhere in Nevada. Western Slope 1801 was drilled to test some of the interpretive work that we were doing from this geophysics. And the geophysical method that worked best for us out here it's called CSAMT, or Controlled Source Audio Magnetotellurics. It's an electrical method that measures the resistivity and conductivity of the rocks. We're going to look at a cross-section, a number of cross-sections across the property in the next few slides. So this is an interpretive map using the geophysics. So the colors that you see here is the geophysical interpretation. The overlying volcanic rocks display this purplish color. That's an indication of high conductivity, low resistivity. You can see there's a broad kind of dome-shaped feature here. That's the contact between the volcanics and the underlying favorable limestone units. And so we use the geophysics to model the contact between the volcanics and the limestone. And Western Slope 1801 was our test of the work that we've been doing with the geophysics. And it hit the contact between the volcanics and the limestone within a few meters of where we anticipated. What some of the other aspects that we're showing here are a number of faults, some low angle faults, high angle faults, fluid flow coming from depth. Most importantly, though, we're highlighting here the Wendan 5 limestone, and we'll see this better in another section that just shows the geology. The Wendan 5 is the key host at Cortez, and we have broad exposures of it to the east that are not mineralized, but when we get into the mineralized zone west of the Iceberg Fault, the Wendan 5 is mineralized. And in fact, those high-grade intercepts that we showed on the previous diagrams are in the Wendan 5. So we know that gold is being deposited in the right location here at Red Hills. So the work that we did with the geophysics again pointed to this dome that we showed in the last slide. Well, further work has indicated that there are actually 3 of these domes or anticlinal features, one to the west, one in the center, and one off to the south and east. And these are our main targets that we're pursuing with the drilling program that's underway. So just looking at the geology without the geophysics, this is the cross-section that we showed on the plan map previously. The hot drill holes off to the east, the Western Slope 1801, and now the drilling that we're conducting in the Rift Anticline area. This is a drill hole from last year, came down, successfully penetrated the volcanics, entered the limestones as anticipated. However, we think we're just a little bit off where we needed to be on the anticline. Again, we're looking at depths down 1,500 feet in this position. So it's not easy to hit your target on the first hole, and we're following up. This hole did have significant trace elements and some moderate gold mineralization, nothing high grade. Western Slope 1801 had similar alteration and a low-grade gold hit down below the favorable Wendan 5. What we think is happening here is that the fluids are being fed from the west and from depth, coming up these low angle faults, interacting with high angle faults, and then forming the mineralization in the Wendan 5. We think that this area off to the east is just probably the up-dip exhaust kind of last gasp of the fluids, and that the better mineralized zones should be off to the west from there. So this is a bit of geology kind of 101, I would say. This is the stratigraphic columns from Goldrush, the Rift Anticline, and Serena. At Goldrush, most of the gold occurs in the Wenban 5. There, the Wenban 5 is about 75 meters thick. Off at Serena, where we have the intercepts in the Wenban 5, it's only about 10 meters thick for the most part, and that's due to significant faulting in that area. Where we've drilled in the Rift Anticline, we have proved that the Wenban 5 is substantially thicker. It's up to 175 meters thick, so that bodes well for the opportunity to develop a thicker ore body similar to Goldrush, as opposed to what we have at Serena. So now on to the drilling program. We had a period last year where we didn't do any drilling. We were I had applied for and received a new permit, a new plan of operations that allowed us to greatly expand our exploration program. Previous to that, we've been working on smaller 5-acre, what we call notices of intent, which are pretty limited in their scope and don't allow us to create a lot of surface disturbance, only 5 acres. So now we have up to 100 acres of disturbance permitted, and we're actively engaged in drilling the Rift Anticline using that new permit. Last year, we completed 2 holes along this northern section. Those are 1 and 2, and then 2 holes on this southern section. And we'll show cross sections highlighting the geology from each of those sections. So in this first one, we see the geology in RA 20-02. Came down through the volcanics, into the limestone, and down into the Wenban 5, and then into the Wenban 4. This drill hole had, again, minor geochemistry, including gold, and then similar to Western Slope 1801. However, we kind of think we missed the crest of the anticline, and it may be off just to the east here. So we're actively engaged in new drilling to test the target. It's important to note that it shows up in this second slide, is that we have again, came down through the volcanics, hit a thinner section of Wenban 5, again, limited gold with alteration in Wenban 5. But in these holes, we came down and penetrated the complete section of Wenban and went into the Roberts Mountains Formation. And that's also a host for gold mineralization, particularly at Cortez, where much of the Cortez Hills deposit is hosted in the Roberts Mountains Formation. So RA 20-4, the last hole from last year came down into the Roberts, and we intersected some pretty significant gold mineralization down in here, and broad intervals of 1 gram and narrower intervals of up to 4 grams. But what's important is that these intercepts are a pretty close proximity to this CMZ fault. So this is one of those important low angle feeder faults, and we think that was responsible for helping develop this mineralization. So subsequent drilling will be targeting the CMZ, the Wenban 5 in the upper parts, and then down now into the Roberts Mountains Formation. So the new drill holes will be somewhat deeper than we had originally anticipated with this new revelation that the Roberts is down there and it is mineralized. So this is another plan map showing the permitted drilling. So these are the drill holes that we have permitted under the 100-acre plan of operations that we've completed, and we're now actively drilling the 2021 program, and we'll go on to show that. So here we see the same plan map, and now showing the location of the first 3 drill holes that we have planned. These 3 drill holes have been pre-collared, and what we do is drill an RC drill hole down to some depth to cut the cost, and then we case that RC hole and re-enter the hole with a core drill. So we've pre-collared these holes. We currently have 1 RC drill drilling the pre-collars, and we have a core drill set up on this site, actively testing that target off to the east of 20-04. Another core rig will be arriving soon. It will begin testing here at site RA20-02, and then we'll move down here when the rigs finish up these holes that they're on. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Albert and let him finish the presentation.
Yes, thanks, Ed. Thanks very much for that description. And that's why we're excited to be drilling. I'm going to run through this, what is called the Lassonde curve. And I gave you a history of how we recruited various people and the property, and then how we secured the property. And then our next job is to make that significant discovery. With the help of Ed and Charles and all the team, we managed over the last several years to determine the most likely place for the elephant we're looking for is buried underneath the volcanics of the rift. And we're excited, and we expect the next 12 holes to give us some idea as to the size and possible grade of that discovery, upon which we expect some improvement in our stock price, and we would finance at higher levels to further drill the situation off. And our intent is not to put this into production. We're explorationists, and we have 3 different companies that have expressed an interest in us and are watching our programs and waiting for the results, as we all are. So folks, thanks for your attention and joining us, and have a great day. Cheers.